Out of all the tier 9s that are present in World of Tanks Blitz, I gotta say that the IS-8 has to be one of my lifelong favorites. Due to the fact that now since it got its PBR graphics, the vehicle looks 10 times more stunning, and it made significant changes to its armor profile, including the fact that you can now get a lot of troll bounces on the upper plate against standard ammunition, and even the turret in most regards as well. You also have tungsten rounds, which can roll more than your average damage output, which is absolutely crazy to even think about. And it's also known for having solid maneuverability as well. If we can go ahead and take a look at this, the vehicle goes 41 forward and 13 in reverse, and it has a solid power to weight of 15.1 along with that. But what if I told you that there is a higher end variation of the IS-8 that's not penciled in this game, at least not yet? I'm hoping Wargaming implements it sometime soon into their game, and that is my beast, aka the IS-8 on steroids, the Object 277, which is the tier 10 Soviet tech tree heavy that is present on both PC and console. And yes, I do really say that it is a buffed IS-8, considering that it has the same exact gun. It has a very similar hull design and a fairly similar turret. However, it is buffed to a point where you can get a lot more bounces than originally. In terms of the physical stats of this vehicle, is actually fairly insane, having 265 mils of standard pen, 340 on its premium, and 65 on its high explosive. And of course, for the average damage as well, pretty much the same on PC, where the standard and premium are going to be the same at 490 millimeters of standard and premium pen, and 640 on the high explosive. However, the hit points are a little bit, 100 bits more than what they are on PC. However, it used to be 2200, and now they converted it up to 2300 hit points. The vehicle is actually fairly maneuverable as well, going 55 forward and 15 in reverse, and it also has a fairly solid power to weight of 16.27 along with that, which is absolutely crazy to even think about. And in terms of the armor profile, I have this pulled up on World of Tanks Armor Inspector, pretty much console variation if you want to say that, and this is against one of its belated brothers, being the IS-4. You may think that on paper it might not seem crazy due to the fact that the majority of the upper and lower plates can be easily overmatched, as they are upwards of about 229 to 206 in most cases. However, you got troll cheeks that occur on the sides right over here, to where if I load in my premiums, you can easily cut through them, as they are above 300 millimeters thick. In terms of the turret, it is actually fairly strong in most cases, having above 400 to high 300s in lots of places. You do have a hatch on the roof though, and it's going to be a sincerely hard hit because of the fact that using your maneuverability and agility factors, you can basically just move back and forth, and your vehicles are pretty much going to have a hard time trying to hit that hatch. Especially would account for using this vehicle 6 degrees of gun depression. You can see that the hatch is barely ever visible now at an angle like this, and it does make slightly bit of changes for this, as it thickens the turret up to 500 millimeters thick, and even the upper and lower infrastructures now in the upper 400s. To where if I'm loading in my premium pens, it wouldn't make the slightest bit of difference whatsoever, as you're still going to have a fairly hard time trying to cut through the full-on upper infrastructure if it is hardly ever exposed. Even some bits of the turret here and there, to which you would have to hit it in the right spot in order to penetration, but that's going to be hard considering that the turret is an incredibly troll foe to face. So once we go to make our way towards the side of the vehicle, the side of the turret is upwards of 235. You got troll bits right here that are angled bits, upwards of 346 still to 201 and 167, along with the full-on side being 190 to 184. And then for the rear, the back of the turret is 80, and then the full-on rear is upwards of 62, to which HGs can only cut through this little spot right here in an IS-4 and do the maximum amount of damage possible. So now that you've basically kind of gotten a visual of what this vehicle is capable of doing, let's go ahead and demonstrate a couple bits of gameplay on console World of Tanks Blitz and see how we can fare well. We are on the Azure coast in this battle, which is a fairly rat map with a lot of flat ground areas, to where you can basically outmaneuver the majority of vehicles, whether you're going to the far right side of the map or the middle. Those are really the most popular places to go on certain maps like this one right here. I should also say that commanders are present in this game, to which they would range from 2D and 3D commanders, to which you could choose abilities based upon your personal preference of your choosing. So I basically have a commander equipped and assigned to this vehicle. I should also say that you can assign commanders to any vehicle in that regards, and there's no restrictions based upon what class of vehicle that you want to put them on. To which I have a couple of them, if I remember properly, to where I have one where it decreases my consumable cooldown speed. I have one to where it can decrease my dispersion. I have one to where it can give me a boost to my reload to when my health is below a certain limit, and yada yada yada. There are also some equipments that come pre-applied to certain vehicles of your choosing as well, to where you can swap through your vehicles. I know PC has that implemented as well, to where if you swap your shells, your reload time will stay the same, keep going constant. But at times, if you don't have that mechanic ran, then when you flop on over or switch to another shell, then it will just automatically reload the clip and just all by itself, which is actually kind of stupid to even think about. So let's go ahead and flop on into this battle. Alrighty, so we are going to make our way over towards the right. They seem to have a couple heavies, to which I did not pay attention to the enemy lineup, which is totally alright, but we're just going to have to see apart from our gameplay factors how this game turns out. So we've already started by getting a shelf that flew right by us, and we already noticed that there seems to be some enemies that are lurking off in the back. Alright, so we are just waiting right here for the time being. I decided to want to ping to my enemies to focus that area, and it looks like we got an enemy LTTB off to the side. Try to get that shell into him to maybe see if we can get a finishing clear into him, but it doesn't end up being the case, as you do got to remember at times with PC and console, there is a little bit of a delay depending on how fast the shell velocity goes on certain vehicles. So that means you would basically have to aim in a little bit over to the right and left, as that there is no auto aim feature unlike Blitz that is penciled within this game. Alright, so we are moving on a little bit forward. Let's see what else that we can spot out in the open. I want to kind of stay back just a little bit until I can rely on my teammates to outspot the majority of enemies for the time being, until I know that I am confident enough to maybe poke on out and see how much I can deal in terms of their hit points. Alright, so staying put right here for the time being. The light bulb indicator off to the left side means that the enemies know where my exact location is. They're not spotting me yet, but it just lets them know that I can be spotted anywhere on the map in an exact location, to where if they want to tunnel me, then there is that exclamation mark indicator off to the right side of the light bulb. That basically means that the enemy can spot me out, or that they can outspot me whenever my tank is out in a position to where within their peripheral point of view they can peck me off. Alright, so now we're going to head on over towards the left side right over here in between these rocks, as we do notice that our light tank right over there is taking care of that AMX. So we got the Yak Panzeroni off spotted in the back. Let's go ahead and get a nice tap into his cheek for a nice roll of 506. And that is where the beauty part of getting these solid rolls in this vehicle takes an effect. To which again we are going to demonstrate by hitting a nice chunker into his lower plate for 526. And after 2 shells, we are already past 1,000 damage. Like, that is absolutely crazy to even think about. Alright, the Yak has spotted me once again. Wanted to see if I could hit his gun mantlet, but didn't want to risk it, as he did end up destroying a little bit of some of my crew members, firing an HE shell into my turret. That's the beauty part of having fairly strong turret armor in that regard. So, we got the enemy Yak Panzer spotted once again. It looks like that he is backing on into cover, which it looks like that he did. I did want to see if I could get maybe a peck, as he does. It does look like that he was going to poke on out again. But we also got the Type 5 Heavy off to the side. Can barely spot him in that regards, but I just want to make sure that some of my teammates are lurking on over towards the left to keep him spotted. So I am staying put right there. He ends up exposing a little bit of his side of it, but I did try to end up getting a tap into him, but it didn't end up penetrating him. To which we also got the enemy RHM off in the back. Somebody gets a nice tap into him, and I'm loading in my HEs, and there's 639 damage deducted out of his vehicle, and now he is out of the game. Alrighty, so we also got the enemy Dragon off in the back, and we also have the Type 5 Heavy still, to which I am going to see and attempt my luck to see if I can maybe get a nice tap into his hatch. I'm aiming in on it, seeing if I can maybe get it to the best of my ability. I go ahead and fire right there, and beautiful tap into his hatch for 494. That is a fairly tough shot right there, and I do gotta say that this thing is actually fairly accurate, considering that I think it has about like 0.27 or 0.28 dispersion. Pretty solid in terms of that. Don't really know what its aiming time is, as I wasn't really paying attention to the stats that often, but it seems to be fairly solid to a point to where you can basically hit the majority of your shells to where exactly you're aiming at. Alright, so we are moseying downward just a little bit, see if we can maybe get a nice tap into this Yak Panzer. We did have him spotted at the slightest second, but that does not end up being the case as he backs on into his little comfort zone. So we're going to go ahead and continue moseying on forward to a spot to where we can maybe peck him off within our peripheral point of view. So moving on upward just a little bit, and now we can spot the enemy Yaga just here in a couple seconds, but we do see a couple of vehicles lurking off towards the side, like this enemy on Mill 2, who bounces me, and we get a nice tap for 529 into his vehicle. You can already start to see the sheer power of this gun, and able to get away with rolling 500 into your enemies, which is crazy. Got the Mill 2 spotted once again, and there's another 500 damage deducted out of his vehicle. Alrighty, so now we are reloading once again, until I make sure that I am 100% confident in wanting to tunnel these enemies. I want to make sure that I can outspot and clear that Yag off to the right side of me, so that is exactly what I am going to do. So we are staying put right at the time being until we know that we are comfortable enough to see if this Yag is pointing off towards the other side, which it looks like that he is. We wanted to try to see if we can get a nice tap into the crevice, but I hesitated a little bit, and my gun just goes a little bit towards the right side in between that crevice, and it hits the building. But the good news is that we can outspot this enemy Yak, and we get a nice solid clear into his vehicle for 525. Alrighty then, so that is going to leave us with these remaining two enemies off towards the side, the Batchation 25 ton and the E75 TS. Alright, so we are moseying in right along towards this enemy Batchat right over here. I did want to see if I could attempt to get an HE shell because I knew that he was going to be facing his side. So that is exactly what I wanted to try to do. But unfortunately, I mess up the HE. So, unfortunately, apart from that, we go ahead and ram him and take care of him in the process. So now all that's left is the enemy E75 TS, to which we're going to get a nice solid tap for 540 into his lower plate. And then that's going to give us the opportunity to reload, and unfortunately not going to have enough time in terms of that to get the clear into him, and that is a fairly solid game, breaking past 5,000 damage in this one. That is going to put us in the top 2 slot as our WZ-111-58. It's 7,300 damage, absolutely crazy of a game apart from his behalf. And it really just goes to show that this thing is a fairly deadly vehicle, to which we pulled out a second class in this one, and pulled out some fairly solid stats. And then we make our way into game number 2 on Vineyards. Vineyards is a little bit of a strange one, considering that you have a lot of hold down and kind of rat spots to want to plant yourself, especially when you're in a tank destroyer, because out in the middle, like where you have like a significant number of bushes, considering that tank destroyers have pretty solid camo factors apart from this, and if they see some light and medium tanks rummaging around in the open, which is a fairly open area to where they can do such case, they can just peck them off without a hassle. But like I said, with the input delay of how the aiming mechanics work, that's going to be highly unfortunate, because you basically have to aim all the way to the right, especially if you have a fasty, in order to guarantee that you can try to hit them and to the best of your ability. So in terms of heavies in this one, they have a T95 FV4201, they have an E100 double mouses, a Z-Log P, which is a Polish tier 10 heavy, and an IS-7. That was actually a tank that was implemented in a battle pass that was just introduced, and yes, there is a battle pass system to where you can get new tanks when you reach the maximum level. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and rummage our way towards the left side. I'm going to skip a little bit forward just in case and get to the part to where we are going to peck off some of the enemies to the best of our ability. Alright, so we already got a couple enemies spotted off towards the back, like this enemy mouse who is in the open. We unfortunately, I think, missed that shell. I couldn't tell if I missed him or bounced him, but that's totally alright. It wouldn't really make much of a difference whatsoever. Alright, so we got a couple more enemies lurking off towards the side, like this M48A2, to which we couldn't really get the tap into him, as it looks like some of our guys are dealing with them off in the back. So that is going to give me the sheer opportunity to mosey on down, see what I can take care of while I am trying to be in support of my teammates off towards the left. Alright, so we are going to be using our solid maneuverability, and like I said, on a downward slope is where the maneuverability factors can become significantly well, and we did hit 60 kilometers per hour in that regard, so we are continuing to mosey on forward in terms of that. And we do spot the enemy mouse off towards the right side. He gets a solid tap, damaging my fuel tank in the process. I want to try to see if I can get an on-movement shot, but it was highly unlikely, and we did end up bouncing him in the process. But the good news is that we have solid DPM levels to where we can just make up for that first shell and get a nice tap into his lower plate. Alrighty, so reloading once again, we want to make sure that we can maybe get another tap into this mouse, but he ends up moving the cover at the last second. So I'm not really going to be focused in on him for the time being, as I want to be in support of my teammates and try to take care of this flank off towards the left. Alright, so moseying on through, we got the other mouse that's off towards the side right there, and we got the M48A2 who's going to make a dire mispoke, trying to see if he can get a nice tap into our T175. I mean, he does end up mispoking, and we do get a shell for 385 into his vehicle. Alright, so reloading once again, let's see what else we can take care of. of in the process. You got the enemy Ruthless off in the back, which is basically a turreted 183, or a better variation of a 183 that has standard pen that's upwards of about 1150, which is absolutely insane to even think about. Might have to get a review on that sometime soon, especially if you guys want me to do more videos like this on World of Tanks console. So we get a nice tap hitting the top of his roof, or overmatching his roof. Alright, so reloading again, we are going to mosey onward towards this enemy Ruthless once again, and we are going to get another solid tap into the side of his turret for 461, and that's going to give us the opportunity for my team to finish him off in the process. Alright, so we're going to continue moseying on forward. We also spot the Centurion Mark 5-1 off to the side. We're going to be tunneling him in the process with our ally E5, so he is moseying on down for the time being. He gets a nice tap into him for 429, and then I'm going to mosey my way. I want to try to see if I can HE him, but he was not facing his rear, so that gives me a nice tap into his side for 411, to which this E5 has much better DPM factors than this vehicle does, in which he's ordered to get another solid tap into him, and I'm able to finish him off after that. Alright. Got the enemy mouse to the right, but I'm not really concerned about him for the time being. We do spot two enemies off towards the left side of us here in just a couple seconds. It's the FE4201. We're going to make sure that we can get a solid tap into his vehicle just real quick, to which he does expose his vehicle out in the open, including his side, and we are able to get a nice tap for 504 while he bounces me in the process. And that really just goes to show that the turret can be necessarily troll at times, to which we're aiming in on him once again, and we were able to overmatch his roof for 433. Again, the accuracy levels of this vehicle, absolutely insane, alright? So we are reloading once again, and it looks like the enemy Artie, the T-92 HMC, is plopping himself out. We are firing in our AGs and getting a nice tap of 604 in the process. That is where the AG mechanics can also become fairly deadly when you're able to roll just as much damage as that of probably some of those hard hitters like an E100 and a BK. Alright, so I want to try to back on up, as it does look like that I am spotted because of the exclamation mark indicator. Alright, so I mosey in on this enemy T-95 once again, and I unfortunately bounce him, wanted to try to overmatch his roof for a third time, and it didn't end up working out. Alright, so we are going to reload once again, and now I want to put myself in a spot to where, just in case if this FE4201 decides to want to plop himself out in the open while trying to deal with my ally TD off to the side, then that is where he is going to have the hardest time, especially for the fact that I end up clearing him right there for 434. And we do get a solid clear into him apart from that. Alright, so reloading our clip once again. Not really concerned about the Artie at the moment, as it looks like I want to focus in on the remaining enemies that look to seem to be off towards the back right side. We got the T-114 bat. Unfortunately, our shell flies a little bit low. That's the lackluster part, is that having solid aiming time and dispersion can really lead to having dire outcomes when it comes to hitting your shells at a distance. Alrighty, so we are just going to be moseying on down just a little bit. It looks like that we got the enemy Yak Panzer spotted out to the side, and it looks like that we can outspot in the side of his vehicle and put up a fairly solid damage output of 520. Alright, so reloading once again. That is going to give me enough time in order to mosey my way down and see what I can pack off in the process. So it looks like that this T-114 bat is going to spot me off towards the right side, and it looks like that is going to be such case, as it looks like he is out in the open. I want to wait to fire on in, and I get a nice tap for a very solid roll again. Alright, so reloading again, and now I'm going to tunnel this T-114 bat, using my solid maneuverability factors to the best of my ability, moseying in on him, and seeing how we can fare well apart from that. So, moseying in on him. Come here, Mr. T-14 Bat. I know you would like to play with me, good sir. Did want to try to spot him at that slight bit right there, but unfortunately didn't turn out to be the case, as it looks like that he is moseying himself out in the open. We get a nice tap into his vehicle, and then we're going to give him a left tap just in that regards as well. There we go, nice solid left tap into you, and that's going to give us enough time in order to get the clear into him, and now he is out of the game. And now all that's left is the enemy Yak Panzeroni, to which he is finished off, and that is about as much damage that we're going to get apart from this game, dealing just shy of 6,000 damage, and it really just goes to show that there are plenty of fairly solid capabilities that occur for the Object 277. So we were able to do second, on the team in this one, kind of surprisingly enough that we did the best damage in the game, pulling out a first class apart from that, and that is another fairly solid result apart from that. So as you saw, apart from those two gameplays, this vehicle is one heck of a beast, considering you have maneuverability, a very hard-hitting gun, including troll armor along with that. I would say, Wargaming, if you wanted to implement this thing into World of Tanks Blitz, which I really hope that you do, make it probably a tech tree with the tier 9 variation being the Object 257, or just make it into a collector. Give it about a 440 to 450 alpha and add tungsten shells. Keep the armor profile the way it is, unless if you're running standard ammunition. Thicken it to where standard can't really butter through it, but with heats, that's kind of an unquestionable cause. Hopefully you guys did end up enjoying today's video on the other hand, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and make sure to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it so you do not miss out on any new videos. And if you guys want to see more console replays apart from my behalf, yes, these were my games, by the way, get this video maybe to above 70 or 80 likes, and I'll try my best to maybe get some more console content out for you guys. I would have to basically get an Elgato first to record on my PlayStation 5, but we'll just have to wait and see till then. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, y'all.